Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin, and we're going to be discussing whether Bitcoin can put in a new all time high during an interest rate hike cycle by the Fed. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and check out the sale on the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. Now, the reason why this is timely, in my opinion, is because in March, the Fed is likely going to raise interest rates. And there's been all sorts of debate about how many times are they going to raise interest rates this year, by how many basis points is it going to go up. There have been talks about it being 25 basis points, 50 basis points. Who really knows? Given the most recent geopolitical things going on in the world, perhaps it'll be lower and come in at 25 basis points. But the point of this video is to say, you know what? Everyone has been saying that, look, when the Fed raises rates, when they raise interest rates, it's going to lead to a slowing economy because people, it costs more to borrow. And then the question becomes, well, how can Bitcoin go up during a time where the Fed is raising interest rates? And I think rather than assume that that narrative has to be true and that Bitcoin is just doomed to go down until the Fed stops raising rates, why don't we look to see what the data says, right? Let's not buy the narrative, whatever the narrative is. Let's go see, what does the data say about Bitcoin and the US raising interest rates. So one of the things we know is that Bitcoin's major market cycle peak of 2016, 2017 occurred at the very end of 2017. And during that time, you might wonder, what were the interest rates during that time? More so, what were they doing? What was the delta? How are they changing? Were they going up? Were they going down? We can go find out. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the interest rates, the United States interest rate. What do you notice? Well, there's a period between 2008 and 2015 where the interest rates were in fact zero. Now, here's something interesting. So I want you to think about this for a minute. Bitcoin started this market cycle arguably in January of 2015, or you could argue in August of 2015. But it really didn't get going until the end of 2015. We could agree on that, right? We could agree that Bitcoin didn't really start moving until the very end of 2015, going into 2016. What were the interest rates doing at the time? What was the Fed doing back then? The end of 2015 coincided with the interest rate hike cycle starting, not finishing, not going back down. That's when interest rates started going up. So you can see here that they went up in December of 2015. But in December of 2015 for Bitcoin, you can see that Bitcoin was more or less just humdrum, right? It was choppy waters for a few months until May. So about maybe a 6-month period where it was a relatively calm time in the market, and then Bitcoin ended up going parabolic. Now, the interesting thing though is that where was the market cycle peak on this chart? Did it come at the top? Did it come at the bottom? What if, if Bitcoin does put in a new all-time high, should we assume that it'll stop at some point based on what the interest rates are doing? Well, look at this. Bitcoin's peak was in December of 2017. If we go draw a line at December of 2017, it corresponds to right here. So Bitcoin's market cycle peak occurred here, right? It occurred here. Not before they were raising interest rates, not when they decided to stop raising interest rates. Not even when it first started coming down necessarily did Bitcoin's parabolic rally really get kicked off. In fact, when the interest rates started coming down in July of 2019, that was the local top that Bitcoin hit at around 14K. So I think it's always important to challenge our assumptions about things and not just accept the narrative that we hear on Twitter, but to actually say, you know what does the data say? Does the data say that we have to go down just because the interest rates are going to go up? I'm not saying that the price of Bitcoin can't go down. We know that it can. It just went down to 34K. It's been down to 29K in early 2021. We know these are possibilities. But the idea that raising interest rates necessarily has to lead to doom and gloom for Bitcoin for a couple of years until the interest rates start coming back down, I do think is not supported by the data. It's not supported by the data, and we always want to make sure we're sticking with what does the data say, okay? So then what's more interesting is you can kind of see when you look at these, prices, switch this off a log scale, when you look at the interest rates, what do you notice? there's a macro downtrend, right? There's a macro downtrend. So every time they're not really able to go up as much before they just have to come right back down. So here's an interesting thought. We've spoken about Bitcoin and lengthening cycles and whatnot. And I've told you guys that sort of my macro view on Bitcoin is that it should be able to go to 100 to 200K by 2023. Obviously, that's getting tested right now with what Bitcoin's doing, and there are no guarantees with anything, right? There are no guarantees with anything, of course, we know that. I'm not going to claim that there are. Do not be deterministic about anything, but if anything you're going to be deterministic on, it should be that Bitcoin trends up with time, not that it necessarily has to go up identically tomorrow at 4 o'clock, okay? So over time, we can see that interest rates are dropping. Sorry about that. We can see that interest rates are dropping over time. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least the lower highs on these interest rates. And we've sort of hit like rock bottom here at 0. So that's why the only direction really to go is up. But then the question is, well, does going up mean that Bitcoin has to go down? Well, it didn't mean that in the past, right? It didn't mean that in the past. Because again, when it started going up was when Bitcoin really started to do well. Now, we are at a different phase in the cycle, arguably, than we were back then. I'm not going to claim that we weren't. But I also think you could make the case that the more relevant peak was this one and not this one. And if that's the case, then the bear market has been ongoing for about 45 weeks. So, and you can also see this expressed fairly well with the relative strength index as well, where this top was way over here, and then this one was just a lower high, and then we put in a lower low. So, and also from an on-chain perspective, from a social statistic perspective, we can see that sort of embraced throughout various areas of the cryptoverse. So again, we say, you know what? Bitcoin's peak here in 2017 actually happened when interest rates were moving up. So when they were and if I draw it here, right, that was when Bitcoin peaked. What if we see something similar, right? I mean, what if the Fed does raise interest rates in 2022, which they're probably going to do? They might be a little less hawkish than we're originally going to be, though, which, I mean, they're always like kicking the can down the road anyways. If this comes up and does something like this, and then they raise interest rates into 2023, and then they come up here, and then it comes back down because they realize, oh, we can't do this without killing the economy. Perhaps we'll see some type of Bitcoin market cycle peak somewhere during the middle of the hiking schedule. This is dubious speculation. Okay, I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't know if Bitcoin will follow that path of putting in a new high either later this year or next year. But what I can say is that the idea that higher interest rates alone lead to Bitcoin crashing is just simply not true, because again, the interest rates were literally 0 throughout the entire 2014 bear market and 2015 bear market. And when they started going up in 2016 and 2017, that was actually what led to, I don't want to say it led to, it coincided with Bitcoin going parabolic. Okay, so just because the narrative that is circling around the cryptoverse is that interest rates going up means Bitcoin has to go down, it's actually not true. It could happen, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's just because of that. It could be from another of other factors, like war in Ukraine, which even then, a lot of times, a year after a major event like that happens, the stock market tends to be up double digits. So I think people need to be cautious. Okay, I'm not saying that. I do think there's reason for caution right now. There's a lot of uncertainty. I don't have a crystal ball. I wish I did. I hope you can understand, the position I'm in with trying to show you guys where we are in the cryptoverse. Look, there's a lot of uncertainty, and whether we go up and do something like this, or whether we capitulate and then come back up, there's always going to be somewhere there to tell you I told you so. The best thing you can do is manage your risk accordingly. Recognize that either path could happen. Okay, either path could happen, and if you don't set yourself up for either path, then you're not doing yourself any favors. Okay, so we'll see what happens in March if the Fed starts raising interest rates. We'll also keep a close eye on Bitcoin to see what Bitcoin's going to do during the interest rate hiking schedule. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed. Remember, we do have the sale on the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. You'll get access to weekly reports and videos, the Telegram alerts channel, the Telegram chat room, the risk dashboard, the Into the Cryptoverse website with on-chain stats, derivative charts, ROI charts, social statistics, and more. A whole lot of stuff. Make sure you check it out. Lock in the low rate as long as you do not cancel. See you guys next time. Bye.